Welcome to yet another segment of AutoCrit's Coffee Break. I'm your host, Bekah Brinkmeier, best-selling author and author coach here at AutoCrit. And today I have the pleasure of sitting down with Bryan Michael Hughes to talk about his writing journey and everything that we've got going on. Bryan, welcome.
Hey, thank you for having me. Appreciate it a lot.
It's going to be so much fun to talk about the things that you're working on. We chatted a little bit offline, and I am just excited to learn more. So let's start out with you sharing with our audience just a little bit about who you are as an author, what inspires you, and what are you working on?
So I started as a musician. I was conceived as a drummer, as my family says. They needed a drummer, and I was the most expensive drummer they ever had. So, so I moved from storytelling on the stage to storytelling on paper. And so, what really inspires me, there's usually a music component in everything I write. I write heroic realism, so I write about real people that have extraordinary abilities. And I think part of why I do that is because most of my main characters have some sort of a mental health thing to overcome.
Mhm.
That's some background that I have, and actually why I became an author. So, going through some mental health challenges myself, I was reevaluating my life and found out that writing was something important to me, and also found out that my grandfather had been a writer and not told our family about it. We found residual checks in the desk when we were cleaning it out after he passed. So that got my juices flowing as well. So,
Oh my gosh. Wow. That is, I think that I always advocate for representation in all forms of media and things like that. I want to be able to relate to the characters that I write. And so I also write from a space where, as someone who has chronic illness, that representation is constantly in my books. And because you don't see it every day. And
that's right.
sometimes when you're looking for an escape, you want to have that relatability as well. I think that's wonderful.
Yeah.
I would love to talk a little bit about our writing process, though, because as creatives and writers,
Uh-huh.
we can get lost in our process very easily. And
Mhm.
one thing we can't escape is editing as much as I would
Exactly.
like to some days.
Yes.
So I would love to know a little bit about your editing process, and maybe if you have a tip that you want to give out to our listeners about people who are feeling overwhelmed by the concept of editing, what would you tell them?
So my editing process is it's the bane of my existence, let's be honest. Um, because I'm in a situation where I don't have a lot of additional funds to put toward editors. And I mad respect for everybody out there doing editing, but I just don't have the kind of money to put into every book that I write. And I'm writing my fifth novel, and I've also got two short story collections and a children's book. And the reality of it is that if I had all of those professionally edited,
Mm,
I would be totally broke. So
mhm.
that's one of the reasons that I love the process of AutoCrit, and I have put Grammarly as a partner with that. And that's a super effective thing for me, because it gives me, if nothing else, it gives me a lot of encouragement with the scores that AutoCrit provides. It lets me know how I'm doing compared to other people that are doing similar things to me. So I love that. If I had anything to say to people, sometimes I've talked to a lot of people just because I'm at an age now to where people think I know what I'm talking about, even if I don't. So sometimes people will come to me and say, "So how did you decide to start writing?" And I'll just tell them, look, you just have to start, because a lot of people
Mm,
get so wrapped up in the criticism of themselves, which is essentially the editing portion. They get so
mhm.
wrapped up in the criticism of themselves that they don't start. And so I guess my biggest piece of advice is just start typing, because if you don't start typing, nothing is going to happen. So
I think that's advice that echoes a lot of the things I say when, as coach team of Team Planter for our novel 90. There's that famous writing quote, right? That forget who it's attributed to off the top of my head. I need more coffee. You can
that's
always edit a bad page, but you cannot edit a blank page.
that's right.
And I tell people, I don't care about your grammar. I don't care about what grade you got in high school English.
That's
I
right.
don't even remember anything really about high school English. What I care about is your story, because structure we can fix.
Exactly.
Grammar we can fix, but the story that lives here, only you can tell that.
That's right. Yeah, that's one of the things I love about writing, is that it's so personal. And that's, going
Mhm.
back to the me writing about characters having mental health things that they need to face. You got to write about what you know, and that's something, unfortunately, that I had to go through. But it's not unfortunate now for me because the things that I was able to learn through that process just pour out onto my pages. So.
That's fantastic.
Mhm.
I love that, and I love being able to look at vulnerability as an artist, as someone who creates, and being able to put I can honestly say that there's a little bit of myself in every single book that I've ever written, even the ones that I'm writing for my ghost clients that I have no real say other than commercial gain in that book. I can't not put just a little bit of who I am as a person into that,
Yeah,
because
exactly.
storytelling is what if we want to be, I don't know, woo about it. I think there are callings, and I think storytelling is one of mine. It's something I've always been drawn to, and it's what
Sure.
gives me peace and joy in my life, and
Sure.
intense amounts of over caffeinated frustration when I am in the middle of editing. So you did mention that AutoCrit makes this easier for you, which we love to hear. That is our goal. How does AutoCrit fit into your process as a writer, as an editor, as someone who is, constantly seeking to create?
So for me, AutoCrit's more of an encourager than anything else. Um, I probably am not going to be some of your traditional users of the program. I typically am not going to go, okay, give me an idea of what comes after this
Yeah.
chapter. I don't use that feature. And that's not to say that feature is bad, but that's just not something I want to do. I want the story to be character driven. So my characters often drive the storyline. And so then going back in and just seeing what AutoCrit is saying about what I've written
Hmm.
before the first major edit, but just to kind of get an idea of how it compares to other programs. I mean, other stories in the
Hmm.
same genre. That's really where I use AutoCrit. And so it's AutoCrit becomes my my encourager because so many times in the world we live, on social media, people don't even take the time to like something that you're putting there, depending on what day it is and whether they're busy. And so no matter what happens, AutoCrit's there to kind of go, you're doing a good job with this. You're at 87% of this,
Hmm.
and I know that those are only numbers, but it is an encouragement.
And a lot of people have told me, when they sit down and they especially when they use the story analyzer, right? It has a lot of great feedback, that it's less scary to receive that feedback in this objective way. It's always presented positively. It's not going to be um like the old school method of editing where you print it out, get a red pen, make it bleed,
Oh,
and then
yes.
feel like you're going to cry. This is going to say, hey, this chapter's great. You're hitting your genre comparisons.
Mhm.
Fantastic. You small minor detail, you accidentally forgot that this person was dead.
Right.
And
Exactly.
this does not align with chapter 7 where they were
Uh-huh.
very much alive. So this is I love the plot thread tracking because that is something that I as a plantser, I don't follow a strict outline, so I'm going to be just making stuff up as I go,
Yeah.
and that can be challenging in 180,000 words where I'm like, what do
Totally.
we
I'm
do?
I'm I'm a hybrid, so I do an outline, but I let my characters usually by about chapter 2 or 3, they start driving the story, and sometimes it doesn't stay with that original outline. So,
No, sometimes it's just corralling
yep,
this mess and just hoping for the best. Um,
exactly.
I love that. I love the validation that it can give you. I love that we don't change your work. You can keep
Yeah,
your voice. It's going to tell you suggestions that you
sure.
might, for example, the adverbs. Everyone loves to hate the adverbs. I personally keep quite a few in because for dialogue, I have realistic dialogue. I
Yeah.
speak informally. Um, but you can go through line by line and say, this adverb stays and you can't make me change it. Or, yeah, okay, this,
Well, and that's again what I love about
yeah.
AutoCrit is it's an encourager for me. And I know now, having written as much as I have and using AutoCrit in that
Hmm.
process, that I'm going to be 25 to 30% over what AutoCrit says I should be on adverbs. And so that's okay with me because I know my style. So I think it's just having that suggestion because it does make me reconsider, okay, is this one necessary? Okay, yes it is. So and I love that.
Yeah.
So
I like that it's we're helping you strengthen your work while retaining your voice and your story. And I
Right.
think that's so important when we're talking about different kinds of tech and we're talking about different things that we're all using, because this has been an absolute game changer for me on my production schedule to be able to get this beta reader level feedback at 4 in the morning when I am so tired and there's no more
Mhm.
coffee to be had, but I need to know. I need
Yeah.
to know. I have a intense need for feedback. So let's talk a little bit about your characters. I'm always curious about how people come up with their characters. So, what is one method you use when you're thinking about who should be in the starring role of your next?
So, as a lot of writers say, if you are in my life circle, beware. you you can become the basis of a character at any given moment. I'm writing a book right now called Cage of the Bear, which is about some storm chasers, and I was a radio operator in Indiana for the national NOAA, and so, yeah, I mean, I know people from within there. I know that the people that do storm chasing have a wide variety of personalities, but there were, a couple specific people in there that, I always change the names to protect the guilty. But, one guy became Chuck, and I knew this guy. He always wore hats, a little awkward, very sciency. But then he was really interested in a girl that also worked for Noah, and she was not sciency and was a redhead. And so those things sneak into my writing all the time. And so, yeah, it's just people that are in my circle.
I love that. I have can neither confirm nor deny how I set up my villains, but if you know, you know.
Yeah,
That's
exactly it.
that's where I'm at. So as we wrap up this coffee break segment, I would love to put you on the spot, and I'm going to pretend that we're just met at an actual coffee shop and you have just told me that you're an author, and I'm going to ask you that question that everyone asks next. What do you write? And I want you to sell your book to me and to our audience and just tell us why we need to make that book our next purchase.
Okay, sounds great. Well, actually, I'm going to go off from my novels. You know that I write novels, but I have recently written a children's book accidentally. So I'm calling it My Happy Accident. It's called Chloe the Curious Conch Shell, and it's about a conch shell that wants to see what human life is like. And so she rolls herself up onto the sand, and doing so gets broken, gets a cracked shell. And so a young lady, probably in fourth or fifth grade, finds her, and she's the perfect shell for her because this young lady is in a beach wheelchair and finds that they have a lot in common. So she takes her home with her and makes her best friend, and even in the follow-up book, which is in process, takes her to school for show and tell. So
Oh my gosh. Well, I have a little one. I have a teenager and I also have little ones. So I definitely think that that does need to be on our library shelf here in our house. Sounds like a beautiful story. So where can we buy it?
at bryanmichaelhughes.com. All of my stuff is available there.
Perfect.
I actually have all the equipment to print, so I do
Amazing.
as yeah, I do as needed in my office. So yeah, so that they're all available there.
Fantastic. And I will have that link in the caption for our viewers so that you can have a quick link all the way over to Bryan's website so that you can pick up your own copy of these books. And this sounds like such a sweet story.
Thank you.
I know you have a sequel coming. I'm already excited about it.
Well, thank you so much, and you are delightful.
Oh, thank you. And thank you so much again for your time, for joining me for our coffee break today, and for your insights and for sharing your work with us. I absolutely love getting to know our AutoCrit Pro members, and I would love to encourage all of our viewers to check out Bryan's work on the link below. And thank you so much for tuning in. We
Thank
hope
you.
that we'll see you next time.
All right, bye everybody.